we are discovering new species of plants and animals all the time. Sometimes it almost seems like almost every day. And I think it's actually close to one a week. We're finding one new species of plant or animal. And in the last year or two, we've actually discovered quite a few species of reptiles and amphibians. And I want to talk about 5 recently discovered, basically as of the last 2 years, of new species of reptiles and amphibians discovered across the globe. Now, with that being said, because they are newly discovered species, there's only 1 or 2 articles written about at most any of them, so it's going to be a little vague, and I'm going to do the utmost of bringing across what I can and what is known about that, but it's still pretty vague as far as their total range, their lifespan, their dietary habits, even their common names. So I'm just going to do as much as I can for you guys, and we're going to get right into it. So this first one, I think, truly describes everything going on in the world, and this is a new species of snake that was discovered in June of 2020, and it was discovered because of Instagram and the pandemic. So, obviously, something crazy happened at the beginning of 2020, right? And not just in the US, but everyone around the world went on lockdown. And a lot of people, including myself, took to doing stuff out in nature where you could be by yourself but still be able to enjoy things and doing things, i.e., I did a lot of herping, but that happened across a lot of the world. And it just so happens that a master's student who happened to be going to school in Nepal went along and would go on little adventures to go out and photograph species of reptiles and birds and insects in the foothills of the Western Himalayas. And while he was doing that, and he was posting them to Instagram, a herpetologist saw a picture of one of the snakes that he photographed that didn't seem quite right. And as it turns out, that snake is a new species of kukri snake. And so, if you guys haven't heard of the kukri snakes, they're really cool. They're a non-venomous colubrid species that are found kind of all throughout Central Asia, and I think it also goes into Eastern and Southeastern Asia as well. There's quite a few species out there, but they're named for the way that their teeth are shaped. They're not shaped the same way that a normal like corn snake or ball pythons are. They have crazy shaped teeth named for the Nepalese knife that are used by the soldiers of Nepal, called the kukri knife. And so where this thing was found, it was called the Church Valley. That was the area where this snake was photographed and observed, and 2 of them have now been kept to be observed. And so that's why they are colloquially calling it the Church Valley kukri snake. Whether or not that will be its full name, we'll see. And actually, as it turns out, this area in general is fairly unresearched, so there are quite a few unique species that are being found in that area right now. This next one is a amphibian, which I honestly don't talk enough about on my channel, but that's probably because I don't know enough about them to talk about them in at least a fairly confident way. But we're working on that. And so this one is a newly species. It's actually one of 3 newly discovered species that were found in 2021, so last year. And that is the zombie frog. So there are, and that's its colloquial name. It's not necessarily what it's really going to be. So in South America, in the Amazon basin, a global research team led by, I believe they were German scientists, were looking for different types of fossorial or subterranean frogs that were mostly found underground. And after heavy rainstorms, according to the locals, is when you could hear them chirping and croaking. And so after raining for several days straight, after a really heavy one, when it finally started to let up a little bit, they finally started to hear that little chirping that they were making. And so they were digging in their hands and knees and going for it until they finally pulled out this adorable, tiny little, slender-snouted, orange-spotted frog. It was a really small little frog. And they didn't get their name because they rise from the ground after it rains. It's because supposedly researchers and interns look like zombies coming out of the ground after wearily and trudgingly digging through the ground. It looks like they're coming out just covered in dirt and mud and completely exhausted, looking for these tiny little frogs. So, like I said before, this is one of 3 species, but we're calling this one the zombie frog because this specific one was given that name. It's part of a larger genus of frogs that I will butcher, so I'm just going to put it right here because I always sound absolutely terrible and I stutter over normal coherent sentences to begin with. But these guys are a really cool species of frog that they actually think is much more widespread as far as the genus population goes. The individual species are probably fairly geographically isolated. They're just probably more found widespread than they think. They just don't know because they're only found really underground. They're really cool. They're trying to be learned and researched more. And supposedly another really cool fact about these is that in some of the natives there who live there, they actually call that, and again, I'm not going to be able to pronounce the name in their language whatsoever, but they call this essentially the tapir frog because this has a very slender, almost looking tapir-like snout because tapirs are also found in the Amazon region. The beginning of 2021 marked the end of a 4-year study that was going on in a small mountain range in India that were called either, I'm going to butcher the name I'm sure again, but the Western Chats or the Western Cats, CHTS, I think that's, anyway, it was a 4-year study that they were looking for a bunch of different species. And during the study, they found 12 distinct individual species that most likely all belong to the same genus of day gecko. Now, this isn't the same day gecko that is found all throughout Madagascar that we think of. They are very similar where they're more diurnal, they have the little sticky toe pads, they're all very small, very nimble, and they seem to be a little bit omnivorous, just like the day geckos of Madagascar, not the same family or genus. But of all of these species of geckos, they all have very distinct little names, but I want to talk about 2 of them, and so I'm kind of cheating here about an individual one. And one of them was particularly fast and nimble. It was really hard to catch. So the researchers named that one the Jackie Chan gecko because it was just flying all over the place. And then another one of them had a lot of very distinctive little black specking and markings on there. So in similar fashion, they decided to name that one after another very popular black lizard. And that is Balerion the Dread, the dragon from Game of Thrones. There is a gecko named after a Game of Thrones character or dragon, whatever you want to call it. Congratulations, you've been synonymous and founded in history as a little gecko. It's not just fiction anymore. They're all in general really cool little lizards and they all have very distinctive colorations and patterns, but I just want to talk about those 2 because those are the funniest names to me, is the Jackie Chan gecko and Balerion gecko, the dragon from Game of Thrones. They're all in general found in kind of like these rocky streambed areas and in kind of low rising forest. It's really cool. They look really interesting and not a whole lot of known about them other than the fact that evidently one practices Chinese martial arts. In the beginning of 2021, I believe January of 2021, another survey ended, and this one was found in Madagascar. And this one, you guys may have actually heard about. They may have found the smallest male vertebrate ever, period. There is a tiny little chameleon in northern Madagascar that they are deeming the nano chameleon. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. They've only found 2, and it took a while to find the second one. Sorry, I'm just going to look down quickly for the exact measurements. The male was 13.5 millimeters. That means it literally could easily just sit on the tip of my pinky. The female was 19 millimeters. And so that's why they say it's the smallest one. They don't know if they're entirely grown to size. They believe, looking at the structure of them in reference to other small chameleons, I think they're called micro chameleons in general, are they believe to be fully matured adults, but they don't know for sure. There was another interesting, there are a couple interesting features about it. Number one, they don't change color. Several other micro chameleons can, but most of them still can. But these ones are unable to change color, period. The other one, which also led them to believe that they are in fact fully mature adults, is the male, for instance, had very distinctive and large reproductive organs. YouTube, don't be mad at me. But yes, they were large, abnormally large for the size versus other chameleons comparatively. And beyond that, that's really all they know. They believe it's very critically endangered, like most of the other animals on Madagascar. They believe it's probably very geographically isolated because they're very small. They can't travel a whole lot of distance. They don't know what their diet. They probably consist on small, like little springtails and very small micro insects, but they don't know what their lifespan. their life cycle. A lot of other chameleons like that small reproduce very quickly and don't live very long. They don't really know a whole lot. And as I said at the beginning of this video, they don't know a whole lot either. And unfortunately, I would like to tell you more, but that's about all I could find in the 2 articles written about it. So I'm just mostly talking about it because I think it's really interesting that not only are we finding new species of animals, this one might be the smallest vertebrate, period, which is just insane. This last one, I'm going to cheat a little bit. While there were other ones, there were definitely other ones that were discovered in 2020 and 2021. This one was found back in 2016, but I think this is really cool and really unique. And you may have even seen it if you have the same Facebook ads that I do, if you frequent reptile and animal things. They found down in the Okavango Delta region in the Angola area. This area in general has been relatively unexplored for really all fauna, but specifically microfauna, for the last over 10 years because of the Angolan Civil War that's been going on, which is also why we don't have a whole lot of Angolan pythons, as previously discussed in the African pet reptile video. But they found what has been colorfully described as the unicorn tarantula. So this appears to be another type of rear-horned baboon spider. So there are horned baboon tarantulas right now. They're found in Africa in similar areas like this, but on their anthrothorax, they're more hard. It's an actual like little protuberance. It's more of a real horn. This unicorn tarantula, which it does have a Latin name, but I am god-awful at pronouncing tarantulas that I know about their Latin name. So again, right here. But this one is different. It's very long, and it's supposedly kind of squishy. It's, that kind of rich chocolatey color similar to a lot of other baboon tarantulas, very terrestrial, very fast moving. But beyond that, they don't know too much about it. They may have found 2 other species of baboon tarantula, or spider, there's argument there, but that may also be new species. They just don't know quite yet. They may be similar enough to other ones to be a different subspecies or variant or locale or whatever may have you. But this one is just really interesting because they don't truly know what the use or purpose of a long, somewhat squishy protuberance coming off the back of the spider. Supposedly its venom is not strong enough to cause, like a medically significant bite to warrant death. But supposedly there have been several deaths from spiders in the area, potentially this one, due to inaccess of medicine, to their inability to receive proper medical care. Which is why places like Australia that has crazy, crazy venomous animals, there's really not a whole lot of venomous fatalities because they have easy access and great medical care. But with that being said, they do find that the Okavango Delta region and that whole area also seems to be a huge source of unique and abundant microfauna as well as just life in general, an incredible biodiverse area. And that kind of brings me to my kind of like closing theory, which I don't know is true or not. This one definitely probably seems to be the case because they haven't really been able to explore and research the area for so long due to, the war going on. But in all the other areas where they are finding where, oh wow, there's a whole lot of population there, all these there, it makes me wonder if, in fact, they're no more diverse than a lot of other places were. They just haven't been civilized yet. They haven't had expansion of human spread to those areas yet. And so there's still a large amount of biodiversity here that hasn't been wiped out because of human encroachment, which unfortunately sounds like I'm ending on a bit of a somber note, which is true. I don't know if that's in fact the case. A lot of climates do provide more availability for a broader abundance of life, but maybe that's also the case just because there's fewer places that we haven't gotten to yet, so it just seems like there's more. I don't really know. I know that sounds kind of like a bummer, but there are quite a few other species that are still being discovered that we haven't learned a whole lot about, and we're learning new things about animals that we already have known about for a long time that we just don't fully understand yet. Basically, I'm just trying to bring this around, but hopefully you guys enjoy this video. It's a little break away from like the pet reptiles and things like that. I just want to talk about something that's really cool, as well as some animals that I don't really know a whole lot about, and it's really interesting to just kind of learn new things. And hopefully you guys learned something new, because I certainly learned a bunch of new stuff about this, like the crazy zombie frog and everything. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please let me know down in the comments. Hope you're having a great day. If you can, go check out my Patreon. Also, if you can, go check out US Ark. I always put the link at the bottom of every single video in the description. They're doing everything they can for our ability to be able to keep reptiles and really a whole lot of other animals legally in the United States. And they really could use our help. So if you could, please go check them out. That would be amazing for me, for everyone who I know and work with, and anyone who loves animals or education. So again, thank you very much. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll check you next time.